Hello, Shemai. Welcome to my Wild Welsh Garden. It's a little bit breezy out there today, so I've come in the summer house just to talk to you. There's a lot of very anxious people, I think, on social media at the moment, saying that they haven't seen hardly any bees or any insects in their gardens, and wondering whether this is the insect apocalypse that we've been promised is going to happen when the insect populations collapse, and what's going to happen then. And I think with insects, it's very difficult to know because they're very sort of vulnerable to fluctuations in weather, in temperature and rainfall and that sort of thing. And they can be very affected in the short term, but not necessarily in the long term. And the experts are saying that this is probably due to the very wet winter that we've had and the cold spring that we've had. And really, we need to look long term at insect populations. But of course, that is so depressing because insects have been in decline for so long. And insects are so important because they're the bottom of so many food chains and food webs. There's been a massive decline in insect-eating birds in this country. Birds like swallows and house martins and swifts. And partly that's due to lack of nesting sites, but probably a lot of it is due to just lack of insects. I don't think I've seen a difference in the amount of insects around in my garden anyway. And I'm guessing here, but I think that's probably because the insects up here are quite used to wet winters and cold springs, and they've kind of evolved to cope with it. So I thought I would talk a little bit in this video about insects and what us gardeners can do to help them and to stop the decline. I think we all know about planting for pollinators. I think we all know the kind of flowers that produce nectar and pollen that the insects like. But insects have quite complex life cycles, and they have other stages that need other things other than just flowers. So what I'm going to do today is I do have a little bit of wild garden maintenance to do, because there is this misunderstanding that wild gardening means that you don't do anything. Well, those of you who've been watching my videos will know that that's not true. So there are a couple of things that I want to do, but while I was doing that, I thought we'd just look round the garden and see if we can see any evidence of insects other than visiting the flowers. A few of my followers have said how watching these videos has sort of persuaded them and inspired them to either become wild gardeners or garden in a wilder way. And that is so lovely to hear. That's fantastic. That's what it's all about. So if you enjoy these videos and if you found them helpful and persuasive, then please like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And then these videos will get shown to more people, and then we can spread the word, and maybe more people will become wild gardeners, and we can do something to help the decline in insects. In this garden, I have quite a lot of this perennial candy tuft, which flowers in the early spring. It has lovely white flowers, and then I normally cut it back straight away, and that keeps it in shape, because otherwise it does tend to get very bushy, and then it starts to get quite long and leggy. But then when all the flowers had died and I came out with my shears and my secateurs, I noticed a lot of this stuff, which is surrounding a froghopper nymph. And I thought, well, if I'm a wild gardener and gardening for wildlife, I really need to look after these young froghoppers. And so I didn't cut it back and I left it. But now it's pretty much gone. There's that one little blob that I showed you, but I can't actually see any more. So I think the time has come for me to cut this back. There, I've done half of it, I've gone down to the fuchsia and I've got a truck full of greens for my new compost bin. And here in the container garden there is a little silver birch in a pot, and a lot of the leaves have just been completely eaten away, and I'm afraid I wasn't observant enough, I wasn't quick enough to catch them in the act, but I'm pretty sure it was the birch sawfly. They've been and gone, they've eaten the leaves and they've pupated already. But they haven't completely defoliated it, so it's going to survive, live to grow another year, and hopefully I shall have another crop of sawfly next year. I've also come out to give the front a bit of attention. I've already tidied it up a little bit out here, sort of removing some of the weeds that had gone over. But there's this lovely yellow plant that looks a little bit like a small dandelion but isn't. It's a hawk bit or a hawk weed. I'm afraid I don't know exactly what it is. I do find them very difficult to identify. But when I was pottering around here, I found this on one of the plants. Look what I found on a weed that I rescued from the weed killer. It's a lovely big fat green caterpillar. Yes, I don't know what it is. There are so many green caterpillars. They look like he was running out of leaves where he was, so I put him down there. Oh, he's got plenty of leaves there. Anyway, there's no sign of it now, so I'm hoping it was ready to pupate and has done so down at the bottom somewhere. And hopefully it will turn into a nice moth or butterfly later in the year. I'm going to give this thistle some attention because it's looking really very sorry for itself. Earlier in the year it was lovely and lush and green, and it had all sorts of flies living on it, and the flowers were visited by bees. This is a solitary bee, and this is a bumblebee. And the thing is that last year the council killed it with weed killer, but it grew back big enough for a scarlet tiger moth to lay at least one egg on it at the end of the summer, and for one of the larvae to overwinter on it. It is rather the law of diminishing returns where the flowers are concerned, so there's fewer and fewer flowers. The leaves look very, what can I say, hard and unappetizing to a butterfly or a moth to lay their eggs on for their caterpillars. So there, it's gone, and there's the thistle. Certainly a job that you need gloves for. And will it grow back again? Well, I don't know. I'm new to all this, so we'll see. But even if it doesn't, there are plenty of other things that will grow in its place. And I'm going to take the thistle and I'm going to find somewhere over there to chuck it. There it is, next to the nettle patch on the place that's going to be a bramble patch. But some of the nettles on the leaves are turned over, and in there is a caterpillar. And there's another one down there, all rolled up in there. And you can see the droppings where one has been rolled up, and there's one rolled up in there. They're quite small, but if I take you around the other side, I might be able to show you one that's a bit bigger. So I'm hoping you can see this and it's not going to go out of focus. But there is a great big fat juicy caterpillar. So I reckon I have at least 4 butterfly larvae on this little nettle patch. So if we all had a little nettle patch like this, just think how we could help the butterfly populations recover. This is a native blackthorn just at the side of the stepping logs, and something has been eating these leaves, but there doesn't appear to be any sign of anything now, so whatever it is has come and gone, rather like with the silver birch. So what would it have been? Flies, little moths, all sorts of insects apparently feed on blackthorn. And then on this side of the stepping logs there's a native hawthorn, and quite a number of the leaves have sort of curled over. And the end of that branch and the end of that branch too. Oh, just look at this cheeky thing. No fighting, come on. Plenty to go round. If you're good. Look at that. Yeah, she's feeding young as well. She's collecting up the sultanas. How many sultanas can one blackbird get in one beak? Probably not many more. Okay, back to insects. So often when you see leaves curling over like this, it's due to caterpillars, but often it's due to aphids. Now, aphids are anathema to a conventional gardener, but to a wild gardener, they're really an important part of the ecosystem because so many other creatures eat them. So many of the other insects and invertebrates eat them. And so many birds eat them. I mean, the sparrows in my garden eat most of them. And then this is another telltale sign of aphids. I'm not sure you can see him. Oh, there he is. An ant. And as we know, sparrows eat ants too. And here there's a curly leaf, but if I sort of open it up, there's no aphids there because somebody's eaten them all. Here on the edge of the lawn, there's a sow thistle which grew very, very tall and then fell over. But I left it because on the leaves there are these funny patterns. And there's another one here down by the side of the summer house. These are the tunnels made by the larvae of an insect. Not sure what it is. Could be a fly of some sort or a little moth. And they live in the blade of the leaf, munching these tunnels, and they pupate and then emerge as an adult. And something's been eating the leaves of the clover. I suppose it could have been slugs, but it could be the larvae of an insect. And there's some wild strawberries down there. Long grass is another place that flies like to live, which is why I've left some around the edge of my lawn. Yes, they're not the stunningest of creatures, are they? But if we want to have birds like swallows and house martins, these are the sort of things that we need to provide homes for. Thanks for visiting My Wild Welsh Garden. Thanks for watching the video. It did just strike me that I haven't shown you footage of the hedgehogs for a long time, so I'll leave you with some trail cam footage of the hedgehogs visiting the Hedgehog Cafe outside my back door, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye! Hwyl am y tro!